with it just interrupts life. It does. It interrupts life. And a lot of us, okay, now we're starting to look more, a little bit more what we want. And so it interrupts life. It does. And we don't like that. We don't like the fact that it interrupts life. It's not what we want. We want life to keep going on and not have any of these things. But they do. And it is expensive too. So it's, I don't know what kind of insurance that they have, but no matter what, I had insurance and a good job and it was still expensive. So that's why they had the GoFundMe and stuff like that. So let's just pray and ask our Lord Jesus to help them. Okay, let me get back to this as I'm, sharing. I wanted to take that time to share. If some of you have not heard of that yet, but those of you that have heard of it, most of you I know you have, keep them in your prayers. Okay, now as we begin to form, as you see now, he's starting to really look pretty good, right, in this sense. And so, of course, we're going to draw, you need to draw a straight line in here, because his little hands, we're going to separate this area in here a little bit, kind of, and bring the hands back. But we don't want to do that until we get the sides finished up pretty good. In other words, we want to be a little bit reserved about that and stuff. And we're going to do 2 shelf setters on this, for these videos, just like we did the other ones. And then we're going to show you both of them that are finished. So this area in here is really tough. For some reason, it's I don't know why, but it shouldn't be tough in that area, but it is. So just certain ways. Sometimes it's the, but as you can see, we are bringing, we're just going to kind of do this little number on the feet as we bring it down, kind of on each side of it, and slowly but surely come back here and bring some off right in there. Boy, there we go. Back in this back here, sometimes it gets kind of hard to get in between there. There's a little knot right in here that you can't see, and that's what I was running into just a while ago. Sometimes, usually in basswood you don't find knots, but in some basswood you do. And this is an old piece of basswood I had, so I'm seeing a little difficult places that I have in it. And sometimes you don't find it until you start carving. You start removing wood, and then all of a sudden you see that little blemish, as remember that we used people call blemishes. Basically, that's just what we do. All right. All right. Now we're going to come back here and we're going to remove a little bit more as we go along. He's not going to be real. An alligator is not real wide, as we do it. But we wanted to go ahead and come up here, and didn't want to go all the way over here with it, because we'll make the arms that strong. Because basically what's going to happen is you're basically going to just have this. In other words, you're going to have, this is going to come down like this, and this is going to come up like this, okay? Just like that. It's going to come up this way, and it's going to come up this way, and that's the way it's going to go. But I want to finish up the outside here and get this all down as far as I wanted to get it down before we do that, so that we don't cut too much off the middle there. See, as we look at it and bring all this down the way we have to. And like I said, I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone is doing well. See that little blemish right there? That is like a little knot, and you can definitely tell when you hit that area there. You want to be careful not to try to force, and usually it's where the knot is and where it's around it. Those little blemishes in there, if you see those, you want to be real careful, because that's where breakage can occur. You know, that's where these breakages can occur in working with this wood. And like I said, most basswood I get does not have any little knots in them, but to say that that doesn't happen is out of your ever-loving mind to think that's because every piece that you get, there are different, there's blemishes right in between here, like it's right in between the legs, and so this is just a form of what we're dealing with. So yeah, this is election year, isn't it? Uh-oh. The mudslinging, the fighting, all that stuff's fixing to start. I'll tell you what. This is. I have a feeling it's going to be a rough year, folks. It really is. This is a tough year, and no matter where you stand on your candidate or whatever it is, it's going to be a tough year, because it's there's a lot of serious problems going on right now in this economy and with everybody, and especially with borders and all this kind of stuff. And there'll be mudslinging from, you know, people will be full of mud. They'll have more mud on them than these people that get out there with their four-wheelers. And there's going to be some mudslinging in this campaign. And the main thing is, I'm going to just say this to you all, okay? Just, if you're a believer and you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and these things will happen in the world, and you just have to you have to deal with them. And if you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, then I just say, you know, go to him and talk to him about that, in other words, because as the Lord says, this world is not our home, and so we have that situation. So the world, well, I got a helicopter coming over my house. You hear him? Yeah, I don't know what. Heck, they may be moving the military in. I don't know. We're near an airport, so we have a lot of helicopters that come. And a lot of them are lifeline. You know, where they are life-lighting people and stuff. I remember being around. We have a medical center here, so I remember around. Oh, I remember going to the Houston Zoo up there, and it's Herman Park is right next to all the hospitals and stuff in Houston. And my goodness gracious alive, I mean, when you go to the zoo over there, I mean every half hour to an hour to hour and a half, helicopters are landing on top of those medical buildings and stuff like that. So that's where a lot of all that comes from. It isn't, you know, I'm joking about the military stuff and all that stuff, but I'm saying out there we had a lot of them, You know, I think years and years ago, we used to get all excited when we hear ambulances and stuff like that, and a lot of people chase them and do all that stuff. But now you have so many, well, cars now. Okay, you look at the ratio of cars when I was a boy and the ratio of cars when that they have now, and there's just absolutely no comparison, because at that time people didn't have 4 or 5 cars. Basically, you had 2 cars. Usually you had one for the dad to go to work. Some of them just had 1 car. And then you had others that the mother, you know, she would have a car so that she could take the kids to school. And like my mother, she used to do what was called, she would give rides. She would have people pay her to pick their children up and take them to school while she would take us to school. And she did that for years and years and years. Now you don't see that anymore. You don't see that among most people. But she would, you know, they pay them a certain amount, and they would come and pick their kids up and take them to school. And most of the time it was mothers, and we had a station wagon. For those of you that don't know what a station wagon is, look it up. It's where it was like a SUV, but it was much bigger than that and stuff. But it wasn't shaped like an SUV. They were very kind of ugly type automobiles. They were not very pretty station wagons, but they carried a lot of kids. I mean, they did. And that's what I'm saying. They were called station wagons. And okay, now as we're looking at our thing here, we're looking good. And we had that, and she would take, my mother did, she would take the kids to school, and the ladies would pay her for it. And it wasn't very much, but I mean, you know, it was for the gas. It was basically for the gas, and gas was so cheap back then. I'm going to say something to a lot of you young people, and you're not going to believe it. If those that are listening, now you older people know about this. Years and years ago, I remember when gasoline was only like 17 cents a gallon. And I'm going to get a drink of water. Gasoline was real cheap. It was. I mean, it was so cheap that they used to have what was called gas wars. Now, if you don't know what a gas war is, that was that these stations would offer other things besides just gasoline to fill your car up and to come to their station, because we had gasoline stations everywhere. You had gas stations and they were full service. Most of them were full service. I can't exactly remember when self-service gas stations began to come in, but you would go into the gas station and you would not pump your own gas. Now everybody today pumps their own gas, okay? And not most everybody, yeah. Let's see, just a minute. I'm gonna cut this right here.
Yeah, here I go.
Okay, have a good time. And that was my brother-in-law. He was going out. This is live, folks, so you're going to see this at times. So we would have what's called gas wars, and people, these stations would lower their gas sometimes, I mean, down to basically nothing. But most of the time, when they would have these gas wars, a lot of times, the gas stations would offer, especially the different, back then, in this area, we had basically the gas stations. I'm sorry, it's starting this car. The gas stations that we had were Texaco and Gulf and Shamrock, which a lot of people remember. You don't see Shamrock hardly anymore, but it had the dinosaur on the sign. It was Shamrock gasoline, and Shell gasoline, Now Texaco and Shell eventually joined together, and a few off-brand, but mostly it was Texaco, and it was Gulf Oil. That was one of the ones that we had down here, and Exxon. We had Exxon Mobil. They had gasoline and stuff like that. So, and what these stations, they would offer full service, where when you would pull up there, they would pump your gas for you. They would check your oil. They'd check your tires. They checked all this stuff, in other words, to give you service. And so very few people pumped their gas back then. Very few. I mean, you know, that's all, everybody pumps it now just about. But I don't even know if you can find a full service station. I guess they have them possibly in small towns, but very, very often, you know, that they just don't have that, because most of these men that work these gas stations also did mechanic work. So you could bring your, you could have your oil changed. They didn't have quick lube oil change places back then. You took it to a gas station and they changed your oil, and they, you know, did all that kind of stuff. Change it. If you needed tires, it was the same way. You went to a gas station and they would buy it, get a tire for you, and all this other stuff. And a lot of people, they had used tires. Now they still have used tires, but you would have that. So it was a different scenario back then. And you know, the old people really loved, you know, because you pull up there and they had a little thing you would run over. It was like a little, and it would ding, you know, it would go ding and ding ding. For instance, if you watch the Andy Griffin show, then you saw what a full service gas station was, Gomer or Goober, and they would come out and pump your gas and check your oil and check your water and check all that kind of stuff. And that was what they were noted for. Well, when they had these gas wars, they would actually lower the price. But one of the things they did do at that time was to offer incentives. Like one of the things is these stations would offer, and it wasn't just stations, it was the actual gas people like Texaco and Gulf, and they would offer these, like if you would fill up your tank, you would get they were actually, people back then, times have changed so much. People back then ate on they ate on dinner plates. They didn't eat on paper plates. I mean, now if they went on a picnic, yeah, stuff. But people ate dinner at home, so they ate on plates. So a lot of these gas stations would offer, they would offer an incentive, which is if you got a fill up, which gas, like I said, wasn't that expensive back then, but if you got a fill up, then you would get a prize. And most of the time, those prizes were things like maybe a dinner plate. Now let me explain to you what they did. It was kind of like S&H green stamps that they had back there, or they give you stamps, but usually that was at grocery stores where they give you stamps, and then you go and redeem them. But in most cases, they would have, like, you could collect a complete dinner plate set with cups and saucers and all kind of stuff, and every time you had a fill up, well, you would get every week they would have a different portion of that dinner plate set. One week you get a plate or a couple plates, and then the next week you get maybe some saucers, and the next thing, you know, maybe you get cups or whatever it is, but you always got it when you had a fill up, in other words. And so people would vie to get these they would try, that's the way they would go back to these specific places, and they would get their sets, and they would eventually get their sets of things, So this is what was going on back then. So they were, it was an incentive to come back to there and buy gas from them, because they were getting one. And each gas station many times gave away certain things. You know, most of the time. Now, some of them gave away stamps at first. Then, like I said, then which were you had a little book. There were S&H green stamps, and there was another quality. I don't know. It was another type of stamp. I can't remember. And you would have these little books. And supermarkets did the same thing to get your business. And you would put the stamps in these books, and when you filled up the book, you get so many books, and you would redeem them for different. Most of the time, it was for women. It was because they were housewives back then mostly. They would redeem them for household things like, things for the house and stuff like that. So that was what they would do. And it was a very successful campaign that they would run. And people, now when you come up here, as you get toward the eyes, hold on for I'll continue. You're gonna want to put a kind of a line across there, and then what you want to do is you want to cut in and cut down and cut in like that where the eye is going to be, and just have that kind of ridge right there where the eye is going to be. Okay. And that is what they would do. So, okay, that's just putting a little place right there where you can put the eyes, in other words. And so that was the way that grocery stores, and now in every Tuesday down here at our place, I don't know about elsewhere, they would have where you would get double stamps. Where you would get so many stamps with a purchase. Depends on how much you purchased. That was how many stamps you got. And on Tuesdays it would be double stamps. And so a lot of women would wait until Tuesdays to go and shop at the grocery store because that was double stamp day. And so like I said, and people got a lot of nice things in that. But once again, nobody ate out hardly. People just didn't eat out. We didn't eat out at restaurants. I've told you, I think as a child, I don't think I ever ate in a restaurant till I was much older, and we didn't eat out maybe once or twice a year. And that was a treat. Now people, and that's because people work. That's because both people